So we're on. We're not live though, so don't worry. But
Yeah, cool.
it's episode 2 of Let's Talk With, and we are going to be talking with a good friend of mine, a writer, a playwright, a screenwriter. I don't know how many, but a fellow graduate as well. But again, most importantly, like I've always said, a very good friend of mine. It's none other than Ciaran Fitzgerald. Ciaran, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Rhys. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, we were only speaking yesterday, and I was on your
I,
blog.
I've seen a lot of you this week. I've
I
seen more of you this week than I've seen of you in like 2 years. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
know,
it's good, man.
literally. But you're up at Talbot, lads. I'm a Barry lad, so it is a bit of a fair travel, and with COVID and everything, it's not really been the best of times, really. But hopefully, 2021 will do us justice. I know it's not the start it's not the best things, but here's the thing. The thing about the show is it's just us talking. It's a chat. It could be your opinions and us as upsetting people because someone's going to get upset by my face and I'd be like, oh, okay, happy days. But no, it's just a chat about you and then let's talk about other things because at the moment, I mean, it's not been the best beginning so far, especially in America, which has all gone bonkers, absolutely madness.
Well, I was following it this morning, and I'd like to say that it's unbelievable, but it's not unbelievable
Yeah.
because I don't know if you're anything like me, but I expected something like this to happen.
I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't expecting something down the line of storming the Capitol building with um with flags that are totally the opposite of I can't the Confederacy flag in the Capitol building after God knows how many decades, not even decades,
Centuries.
centuries, you just think to yourself, what the fuck is going on, and this is a man who I get so frustrated with Twitters because I agree with a lot of people who are saying this president, who's only got less than 2 weeks left of his presidency, if not less, and he's just dangerously trying to stir the pot. And I said this.
He's very good at it.
Oh,
This
he's
is
so, yeah.
He's incredibly good at what he does, and he's got a base of people who believe it. And
Yeah,
it's very difficult to persuade them otherwise
yeah,
because of the media that they're taking in on Twitter and on Facebook. It all reflects their worldview. So it's
yeah,
going to be very difficult for Biden when he gets elected to unite the country because America is still a very kind of fractious and a very kind of half and half country. It's going to be
yeah.
really hard for him, I
I would,
think.
yeah, I don't know why. I remember when that happened, I just for some reason, I just watched Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis. Just
Film.
it's just sorry.
Fantastic
I
film.
love the film, but for some reason, do you know when it's like when you're desensitized about something, it's like I learned this in media studies, right? You're desensitized about what you see on the television, right? And we were learning about this in film studies, is that, do you know when you see I don't know, for example, a Starbucks in a film, right? All you see is it passing by and it just and nothing occurs. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, you walk past Starbucks and all of a sudden you go, oh, I want a Starbucks, and it's that
Yeah.
fixture mentality point to go in. And for some reason, because I was watching that, I was thinking, I need to go and watch Lincoln. I really want to go and watch that film and see because
Yeah.
for some reason, it just seems to me that America seems to not have left the Civil War period during this particular moment.
That's a really interesting point, actually.
Yeah,
And there still seems to be that divide. I mean, neither of us are black, so we can't speak about
yeah,
racial division at any length. But there seems to be a bigger racial divide from my white middle class point of view in America than there is in the UK. And
yeah,
there seems to be more of a divide between the very, very rich and the very, very poor in America, despite this kind of idea of an American middle class, which is very different to the British middle class. So I don't know. There's some big divisions in America that Biden needs to sort out.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether he's strong enough to do that.
I reckon I'm only happy that thing is, it's like a lot of people were so happy that Joe Biden was in, but I was more happy. I mean, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, but I would be. Someone said I was happy that he got in. I feel great because we can get rid of Donald Trump because he was just. It's such a. Sorry.
That's the thing. If the other candidate had been a monkey, you would have wanted the monkey to win.
Yeah.
Because it was basically anyone but Trump.
Yeah.
And the only reason that Biden is a good thing is because he's not Trump.
No.
I mean, Biden was not the strongest candidate in that Democratic leadership election.
No, it was Bernie Sanders.
I think it was either Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren were the strongest candidates in that leadership election. I think Sanders would have made a better president. I mean, it remains to be seen how Biden is going to do, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And to be honest with you, I don't see him lasting long in his presidency run. I mean, for crying out loud, he's in his late 70s. He's pushing 80. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's going to be the oldest president to ever run off. You know, so it's a very delicate situation to really talk about because, you know, a lot of people point out he's a warmonger, then he's this and he's that. But then I just thought, well, I'd rather I'm not saying I'd rather a warmonger, but I'd rather, you know, because he is a politician, his experience is, you know, being a politician. Exactly. Yeah. Someone said to me, would you rather Richard Nixon or Donald Trump? And I just went, oh, Nixon any day of the week.
Nixon any day.
I said Nixon any day of the week.
Because at least Nixon was a politician. He had a political track record. Now, I don't agree with Nixon's politics. I'm not a conservative. I will probably never vote conservative. But Nixon was a politician. And we've seen at the bar now is that if they're a politician, makes them pretty electable. That is a pretty low bar. You know what I mean?
It's like you're stripping everything. Just say, look, there's everything bad, but at the end of the day, when you strip, it's like when you're trying to do the two with Trump and Nixon, and you're stripping everything off. Obviously, the scrap of the barrel, you know, everything left at the bottom of this barrel for Nixon is the fact that he was a politician, and he's got the political and skills to actually try and run a country, and
he was a clever man. He
was a clever man. I can't fault the guy. He was clever at what he did, and he was clever at the bad things he done, right? But at the end of the day, people just caught him out, and he did just when he tried to say I'm not a crook, and then he just went, all right, I resign. And but Gerald Ford pardoning him, I thought no, because but apparently he wasn't very well when Nixon resigned. He was hospitalized, and then Ford gave him the pardon. I just thought that's very ballsy of you, mate. No wonder why no one remembers you. So
they were talking about on LBC this morning. James O'Brien was talking about the question of whether Trump, whether he kind of realizes what he's doing in a way, whether he actually believes what he's saying, or whether he's just saying these things to stoke up his base. So I just think it's really difficult to get a sense of what the man actually believes, what his beliefs are. Do you get that?
No, I agree with you. I think it's a sense of reality. I don't think he believes the reality around him. He just believes what he believes in his own bubble. The reality in his head is he believes that there's going to be a 10,000-foot statue hanging over Washington somewhere. You know, it's going to be in his head, not, you know.
That's the question though. Does he really believe that, or is that something he's kind of built up and what he's portraying onto his followers to make them believe that? I don't know. It's interesting.
It is interesting. And funny enough, I know we're going to go into about writing and everything, but I really wanted to mention this as well, is that, you know, this is the first time I actually talked a bit about politics. But I find it funny to Solo Trump because we can always say he's a knob, but I can't really say much in the UK times because I just haven't got the energy to do it. But I remember I was watching Black Mirror not long ago, actually. I was just in the mood for Black Mirror, and there was this one where I don't know why there was a lot of hate for this episode. I really thought it was an interesting story, and it was about I can't remember the actual title of it, but it was an actor who did the voice of this animated character, and for some reason this animated character is running for office for prime minister and everything, and it was just I was thinking, do we feel that do we think that Donald Trump is a bit like that, because he is a bit of a cartoon in himself? He's just a realistic cartoon with the orange face, the weird hair, the
it goes back to what I was saying about how much of this is real and how much of it is a persona that he's putting on for his. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
frightening, but really interesting.
Yeah. Well, we got a week or two left. I mean, we got nearly just under 2 weeks left of his presidency, and I am interested in what is going to happen, but I don't see him finishing. Me personally, I just to conclude, I just don't see him personally gonna finish the presidency. I think because there's now a lot of, not just, you know, on the left side where a lot of liberals and a lot of people who are just calling for his head since day one, but I think a lot of people, you know, in the Republican area, not seeing most of them, but there are a few that are actually saying we don't want to be affiliated with him. He's brought an embarrassment.
Yeah, and there are people on the right who are conservative, but they're good people.
Yeah.
So you might not agree with them, but like you were saying, you know, they're good people. We perhaps just don't share their political opinion.
Yeah, just because you don't. Yeah, it's like I was saying to a friend, it's like, just because, I mean, I got a few friends who are conservatives, and I mean they're good mates of mine. I said, just because you vote conservative doesn't make you a bad person. It's just what you believe in. That's just down to you as a person. And I mean, if you're a knob or a dickhead to me, then well, that's just you being a dick, not you voting for a party that you favor of, you know. But you're not going to change people's minds where you try to justify it or trying to clarify. But all we can do is just do what we do best, and just walk around the turning world, you know.
Exactly.
But anyway, let's get down to it then. So Ciaran, you and I go back a few years, you know, going into university and everything as script writers, you know, and I was a year above you, but we got along great, you know. And I remember reading one or two of your projects that you showed me. Talented writer, I must say. I'm not blowing your blowing smoke up your ass or anything, but that's my genuine opinion. But I just really wanted to know, very firstly, before I go on to asking about your writing and everything, I feel like I need to, because I feel like I need to see how you view it, right? And it's the two questions, so I'm jumping the gun a bit. But one of them was, so you got a medical condition, it's cerebral palsy, and
nailed it.
oh yes, I've nailed it. Yes. But it's affected you. It is a big effect, you know. Sometimes it's very difficult. But how did you, if for people who are watching this with cerebral palsy or whatever, how would you encourage them to say, look, you may have got it, but it's not going to stop you from doing what you do best? How would you try and?
Well, if I maybe try and change your perspective a little bit, Rhys, there's a model of critical thinking or disability theory, in a way, that was written in the 1980s that many disabled people subscribe to, which is called the social model of disability, which the model kind of dictates that a person is not disabled because of the condition or impairment that they have, but the person is disabled because of society and society's inability to adapt or change based on the requirements of that individual person. And that is a way of thinking. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I get this right, just say reach it wrong, if I say it. But it's just that just because you got this condition doesn't mean you have to be labeled disabled. You could just treat them as the same and everything. Just
Well, kind of. So say someone is a wheelchair user and they're going to a lecture which is on the first floor and there's no lift. That under the social model, that person is not disabled because they can't walk up the stairs. They're disabled. The thing that disables them is that there isn't a lift. Does that make sense?
right, yeah.
So, to answer your question, I think it has affected me, definitely, but not perhaps in the way that you would think.
Okay.
I think in terms of my writing, it is a great source of inspiration for me because I have a very particular, not unique, but a very particular way of seeing the world because of my perspective as a young disabled person. And I've had experiences that other people have had, but it's unique. It's a specific point of view that I can write about. I can write about the disabled experience. I can write about what it means to have a disability, to be disabled in 2020. I think it has become a great source of material for me. So perhaps maybe your question insinuates that it would have been a negative thing, but for me, it's been a very positive thing because it gives me a pool of material and a pool of experiences to write about. And it allows me to give this perspective on the world that many non-disabled people don't see or haven't got that experience of. But in terms of those barriers, I think those barriers mainly come from, if we're thinking in terms of the social model, in terms of these companies who, you reach out to some companies and it's clear that they haven't worked with disabled artists before and they aren't familiar with the language, the terminology, and there's a degree of education that can fix that. But we're in 2020 now, and I had a conversation with a national theatre company in Wales, who I'm not going to name because things have developed since then and we're now on a good track, me and this particular company. And a producer working for that company, I had pitched them a Welsh language play, which is about a long distance relationship between two people in their 20s who have brain injuries, who are disabled then. And the producer said to me that it would be very difficult to produce or develop this play because there aren't any disabled actors who speak Welsh. Now, firstly, what you have to do is question that and say, how have you come to that conclusion? What work have you done to know that that is the case? And also, as a national theatre company, what are you doing to encourage and develop young Welsh-speaking disabled actors? What have you done? Because it's an onus on them as a company to develop that talent. It should no longer be an acceptable excuse to say that there aren't any. And that's the kind of discrimination that disabled artists are facing at the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's also this idea. I mean, there's specific companies in Wales who are great. I'm not knocking them, they do fantastic work, like Taking Flight and Hijinks and Disability Arts Company, who work with disabled artists. But it seems to me that the industry in general thinks that because these companies exist, that they don't, that the other companies, what we would kind of call mainstream companies, don't have to engage with disabled artists, don't have to make work by disabled playwrights, don't have to cast disabled actors. Whereas that is not the case.
Hmm.
I just think we've been having this conversation for 20 years, since before, well,
Yeah.
long before I came into the industry, and it's bloody frustrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's and do you know what? I think this is going to be the perfect time to ask you this question. The second question that was on the list that I gave you, and I wanted to ask you this one. And funny enough, I got an example here. Daniel Day-Lewis, who played, what's his name? It was yeah, and he had the cerebral palsy and everything. Now we all know Daniel Day-Lewis is a very strict method actor. He researches. He's a very tolerable, very talented actor, and he takes whatever role comes to him very seriously. And he knocked it out of the park. He won an Oscar for it and everything. I don't know about you.
I don't doubt that. Yeah, I will say that he was excellent in that film. He was fantastic in that film. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they should have cast a disabled actor, in my opinion. They should. I mean, it was 20 years ago, so it was a different time. It was before the Disability Discrimination Act.
Yeah.
Which we're celebrating 25 years of this year. But in my opinion, disabled actors need more opportunities. There are disabled actors out there. And if they can't, in an ideal world, disabled actors would be playing parts where it isn't specifically written as disabled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you as well, because I really wanted to know your view on it, which was because it's not just with disabled actors; it can happen with it. Because there was I'll just say this now, but I know it's probably got nothing to do with disabled actors, but I just briefly use this one as an example. It's like a lot of the people now with. There was an outcry for the LGBTQ community, right? I'm not knocking them down or anything, but it was just it was just making me think, right? And it was just like there's a lot of heterosexual actors playing gay parts, and there was a lot of controversy that they weren't picking gay actors for the parts and everything. But I was, and especially like with disabled actors, playing parts for disabled, I just thought, do you think that's stereotyping though, that disabled actors should play disabled characters, or do you think, come on, we can all play a character if we can try?
The first thing I would say, if disabled actors, until we get to a stage where disabled actors are getting cast in non-disabled roles, then it's not okay for non-disabled actors to play disabled characters. When we get to a stage where you see a disabled actor in a role where the disability isn't part of the story, then maybe we can talk about non-disabled actors playing disabled roles. It's about equality, man. It's about the number of roles that are available for disabled actors are limited as it is. And what I would say as well, it's not just about the roles. It's about the type of stories that are being told, particularly in the last 10 years at least. And stories that have been written by non-disabled writers follow one of these three tropes. The first being that a character kind of overcomes their disability in some way, which is absolute bullshit, because no one overcomes their disability.
No.
Example.
It's like telling you're just basically telling him, "Oh, stop it," and it's like, "Well, how can you fucking turn the light switch off?" Because it's like with it's like my mum, right? She's not a fully qualified nurse for people with learning difficulties, and mental health problems, and not for 1 minute. I mean, when I was little, I remember, I hope she forgives me when I say this story, but she came home, right, with cuts and bruises on her arms, but she was working with people who had learning difficulties that are, you know, I don't want to say too severe, but they're to the point where they do need the help, you know.
Yeah, complex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember I was only a kid and I didn't understand, and I was like, oh, who is it? I want to knock him out, you know. But that's just because, you know, when you see that and you don't understand, it's your mum who's coming on with the bruises, you know. Of course you're going to be,
Yeah.
But my mum had to sit me down and said, look, these are the people I work with, and they can't help it, you know.
Yeah.
You can't just discriminate them because they can't help with something. I bet you there's probably a part of them that may and may not, but part of them they may think, I wish I didn't have that, or I wish I didn't want to be that, you know. Sometimes, you know, but that's the way that, but you know, and I grew to accept that, you know, and it's just, if you accept it, then the world will be a better place, and I'll have a pint with you in the future. So
Well, if I can come back to these tropes a minute, because
yeah,
I think it's a really important point. So the first one is that we see in a lot of films the characters overcome their disabilities or recover in some way. The second one being that disabled characters are often like an object of pity or sympathy. That's what we call the charity model, which again is, say it with me, bullshit. The third,
that should be a
the
teacher.
third,
Bullshit.
and the third one that we see so often is like this idea of, well, tragedy being the end of the world. Then we've got the overcoming, and then we've got disability being used as some kind of superpower, or a character being empowered to do something extraordinary because they're disabled, which is, again, say it with me,
Bullshit.
bullshit. You know, some of us can do incredible things. You know, lots of disabled people can do fantastic things, but it has nothing to do with their impairments, you know? And yeah, it's just frustrating how ingrained these tropes have become. And when a realistic or when a story or a play is written which is true to life, which is authentic, which truly can reflect the fact that disabled people are all really complex human beings with flaws and likes and dislikes and needs like everybody else. It's a rare thing when that happens because these tropes are so ingrained. But yeah, it's something that needs to change, and it's something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you playing loads of famous roles and everything. So fair play to you.
I think my acting days are behind me now.
Yeah, but it's just it's like with there was well, everyone say would say, but people always try to look at Peter Dinklage, you know, because he, but it's just, I know it's not the best point to look at. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'd probably be talking through my ass at one point, but it's like Peter Dinklage when he's looked as an actor, you know, and someone said, a lot of people say with people who suffer from dwarfism, if you know what I mean, that he was the one who broke out of it and said, I could play any character.
People who have dwarfism, please not suffer from dwarfism. People who have. Sorry. Is that okay? I don't want to.
I say suffer. I really do not know why I say that. I think it's just a habit when growing up. They say,
yeah, because a lot of non-disabled people say it. Yeah. I have cerebral palsy. I don't suffer from cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no worries. Do you know what? Every time, do you know what? I'm going to look back, right? We're going to put in this now. Every time we look back, and I say suffer, I'm going to put a pound in the jar to say, yeah. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. But yeah, some people do suffer from their disability, from their impairments, but like not all disabled people do. No. And you know, language is important, but I don't want people to get wrapped up in language and, you know, be afraid to get things wrong because it's only by getting things wrong that you learn. If you say something which isn't quite right in terms of what I believe or how I like to be spoken to, I will correct you, and I hope that's all right.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'd rather be. I mean, here's the thing. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I did not know what I was going to say coming on the show. I know I had the questions and everything.
Yeah.
But it's like, just because there's questions there, we're having a genuine conversation. I could say something that's, that could be wrong. I'd rather be corrected.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd rather be corrected than. But it's like a lot of people who, when you see something wrong, right, and it's like you tell me, it's like, Rhys, it's not surface, they do have it, and it's like you point that out to me. But there are going to be people out there who are going to have a go at you, despite the fact that, just take the high road and just go, just tell him it's not this, it's that way. They do have it, they do this, they do that. Don't have a go at it. Because I've had people go at me, even though I just didn't understand. It's like, well, hang on a minute, not.
And then you're never gonna learn. You're never gonna learn what the correct terminology is.
Yeah.
If you've never been told, you're gonna keep saying suffer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about education, man.
Yeah.
And if we go back to actors for a minute, it's about these directors at the top of the industry realizing that disabled actors exist, realizing disabled writers like me. I'm basically saying, give me a job right now. But like realizing that disabled writers exist and, reading our stuff and seeing our experiences represented in an authentic way on stage and screen.
Yeah.
That's all we want. That's all we want.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll probably use this as a good example because it involves me and you. Because I remember you came to me with an idea, and it was to do with a rugby player or something like that, right? And if I mean, you could have thrown any idea at me, and I would have just gone, yeah. I mean, I will always see potential in the story. You could have thrown that the story of the romance between two people with brain injuries and everything. I would have gone, right, let's go for it,
You
but
can read that if you want.
throw it my way. Let's do it. I don't care. We'll do it.
You speak Welsh, right?
Oh, bugger that. I'll probably have to get my cousin Gabby on the phone to read this for me. Well, I'll produce it. You direct it. No, but no, the thing is with me, I'll say this very quickly. It's like, I don't care what background or what disability I have or anything. If you got a story, or it's like me being a director and a producer and writer of my own. If you've got a good story, I'll be more than happy to read. No, you've got a good story. That's very. That's a bit spiteful then. If you've got a story, I'm more than happy to read it and more than happy to put it on. It doesn't matter what the story is, what the topics are, what's the point of the story. If it's a story, we're going to tell it, and that's why I think a lot of people, it's like a lot of people just don't want to listen to that. It's like and it doesn't matter what the topics are and everything. It's like some people just don't want to listen to it. And I'm thinking, no, just sit down for an hour and just watch it. And
it doesn't matter as long as it's told authentically.
Yeah.
As long as the representation is good, and as long as people have done their research, then it doesn't matter. When it matters is when the authenticity of it affects the quality of the. I'm gonna plug my charger in. So go on, man.
No, I was just gonna say, it's brilliant to have that. That's why this show is called Let's Talk With, because I could talk with anyone and we could talk about anything. I mean, we for all we know, we could talk about the sky being blue, and the grass is green or something like that, right? Or we could talk about, people with disabilities in theatre and film and everything, and that's what that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it because it's interesting. Everything's interesting. All you have to do is just sit down, listen, and just don't have to. Well, I know there's a few things sometimes you learn to accept, but just sit down and understand it. If you can understand it, then you're one step closer to being a better, and watch now. They're probably, so if I release this now and I like I said, I said the suffering bit, people are going, Rhys, God, I'm thinking, Ciaran, back me up.
Dude, send them my way. I will deal with those bastards, alright?
Ciaran, help me. Bullying me.
No, I got time to do with that shit. Come on. Let's do it. Right, what else you gonna ask me, man?
No way. So, as a writer, you write a lot of stuff, whether to do with people with disabilities or people with, to get the Welsh language out. And do you know what? I think it's interesting to talk about the Welsh language. I'm not fluent in Welsh. I wish I was. I've tried learning it and I'm still am. I will put my hand up. I'm still trying to
Cadw fynd, cadw fynd.
Yeah, sorry.
Cadw fynd, keep going.
Yeah, that's what Sian said to me, and I was thinking, yeah, hopefully. But if I don't, it's still there. And I've tried writing a few projects in Welsh. Do you know what? I tried writing a play once in Welsh, not to put it on, but to try and learn it the easy way. Yeah. And my little sister, she's a fluent Welsh speaker. She's only 11. I remember when she sat there and she was reading it and she was going, "What the freaking are you talking about?" She's looking at me going, "What are you doing?"
So she went to Welsh school, but you didn't.
Yeah, so what happened was, I think I was going to tell you yesterday, but I think we just went off topic a bit. But
yeah.
But what happened was, I did go to a Welsh nursery.
Right.
What happened was, remember I told you yesterday, and bear in mind, guys, we did a podcast yesterday for Ciaran's, which we'll get onto in a minute.
I hope I get a chance to plug that in a bit.
So what happened was, remember I said that my English wasn't very good, in terms of the way I was speaking was very Yoda. It was very backwards, and let alone speaking in Welsh. And so I remember the first Welsh nursery I went to, which ironically I went with my cousin Gabby. The nursery teacher said to my parents, "He can't speak English, let alone speak Welsh. We're not going to have him." So they took me out and put me in a different one, and then they said exactly the same thing. He can't speak English to save his life. And then that's when they just went, right, we'll put him into an English speaking school to try and learn English a bit, which I did. I mean, hopefully I'm speaking English. Otherwise, I'll be speaking Jabba the Hutt style for one.
Sounds good to me, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
But I went to Palmerston Primary School, which is an English-speaking school. But they're very good. They're very good with looking after people with disabilities and that. So that's something you may want to take interest in. Fair play to the school, because they're very good at doing that. And as you say, the rest is history. So that was one of the reasons. So I did go to a Welsh nursery, but through that time, I couldn't speak. And at one point, I should slap. If I had the chance to go back in time and talk to my younger self, I would have slapped him, because I went through a period where I hated the Welsh language. It just the chus and the llys, the way you pronounce them, it just went through me. I don't know why. It was like a chalk, someone scratching the chalk, but it just made me cringe. And I just
might have come from the fact that it was never taught to you in the right way. You never got to understand it in a way that works for you. And I think that's the same with a lot of people are scared of it. But I went, as you say, I went to a Welsh medium primary school and a Welsh language secondary school. But my mum and dad don't speak Welsh at all. But they decided, I picked up English very quickly when I was little, when I wasn't really expected to, because after my diagnosis, the doctor said, "Oh, he's not going to walk, he's not going to talk, he's not going to do anything." But I started speaking English in kind of pretty much full sentences for the time I was 2. So mum and dad, despite not speaking the language themselves, decided to put me in a Welsh medium school. And it's the best thing that they've done for me, to be honest.
Definitely.
It's given me a whole new skill set and opened me up to a whole new community of people. So yeah.
Well, fair play to you, because I mean, I do look back now. I wish, but at the time, I remember when I kept learning it. The worst thing I did was stop, because I was actually beginning to get to the point of understanding people who speak Welsh a bit more. And when you understand, I mean, obviously you're a fluent Welsh speaker, you could just pick it up just like that. Just go, "Oh yeah." Whereas with me, when I was learning it and when I was picking up what people were saying, I would turn around and go like that, and just listen to them and see what they're saying. And and me being a Barrytown fan, I was going to drop it in there, but
I knew it was coming.
here we go. I knew it was coming. But I remember when every time we went to North Wales to go and watch Barry against Carnarvon, I don't know if I told you this, but for some reason, I think some people from North Wales, whatever sector, they just don't like this Southern Welsh people at all. What I gathered, and I remember me and a couple of mates, a few of my mates were in the pub just before we were going to go to the ground, the Carnarvon's ground. Like I said, I'm not trying to slag the people of Carnarvon, but this is from experience. And I remember just sat there and again, I was picking up the Welsh language a bit. And my friend Ian Johnson, who's a fluent Welsh speaker, Jesus, unbelievable Welsh speaker. We both sat there and we're drinking, and literally someone from from Carnarvon just said something very nastily about the South, saying the Barry bastards and everything. And me and Ian in Welsh, and me and Ian with a pint in our hand just went like that. We both just in canon just turned to this guy, and he was looking at us, and we were just there looking at him, thinking, "We know what you said." You know what you said. You're not stupid. Because it seems to me in North Wales, and don't get me, like I said, I'm not trying to slander the North Wales. There's a lot of good people in North Wales.
Yeah, for example.
Yeah. But that's a good example. Bangor, and I take the mickey out of it because Barry and Bangor used to have this big rivalry in football, so I always take the mickey out of it. I go, oh, like that. But I remember, like I said, it was just the fact that, you know, every time the experience we've gone to Carnarvon or Bangor, there's always been a bit, or Prestatyn, there's always been a bit negative, because we always catch someone slagging us out, and they're not far from us, so we can easily just go to them and say, listen, mate, we understood what you said. Not everyone speaks fluent English down south, so you're being stupid there. You know, just don't say that otherwise. Now, me being me, I get very defensive. If someone slags me out, I'm very, hang on a minute. But he was just there going, we understood what you're saying. And funny enough, the guy just went, right, yeah, just completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going on to, you know, your parts and the writing and everything. You worked in the writers' rooms a lot. And I've
done a couple, yeah.
Yeah, you done a lot. And there was one, if I could I haven't got my filming glasses. This is the worst thing to ever do. When
you're on about Gola Glass.
Yeah, I really wanted to know about that one. Could you tell us a bit more of your experience in that, please?
So it started off back this time last year. Are you familiar with the S4C show Bang?
Yeah.
Bang. So they were filming in Port Talbot, and I knew they were filming in Port Talbot, so I asked if I could go down to the set and observe for a couple of days, which was fantastic. I got to see how the filming worked, I got to see the tech side of it, and I got to chat with the writer, Roger Williams, who wrote the thing. And I've met him once or twice before. He said to me, send me something that you've written, so I did, and he read it. Give me some feedback, not all positive, not all negative, but he gave me feedback. And a couple of weeks later, he invited me into his writer's room on a project he's writing called Gola Glass, which is currently pending commission with S4C. So the concept of Gola Glass is that it's about this single mum from Llanelli who works in a call center where they take 999 calls. So if you phone 999, you speak to someone who says, 999, what's your emergency?
Yeah.
The main character was one of those people.
First call responders, yeah.
Yeah, who takes those calls. So the series kind of follows her life and relationships within her life, what she's got to deal with. So as part of the week where there were about 6 of us writers on the Zoom in this writer's room, including me, Roger, Ciaran and Rhys, and Man Eames. Fantastic to work with people like that who've both been on my podcast. we kind of developed these characters together. So we would go off and write character bios for these individual characters and then come back and compare them. So what we liked and what we didn't like, what to keep, what to take out. And once we'd structured the characters in the first couple of days, we went on to kind of structure the storylines for each of the 6 episodes. So the episodes would be comprised of, the A story, which would be what was going on in Sarah, the main character's life at that particular time, the relationship with her mother, the relationship with her teenage daughter, her ex-husband, and her current partner. And then B story would be whatever the 999 call was. So it could be kids stuck up on the mountain or someone having a heart attack. So what we did during that week, that 5 days of work, was try and outline beat by beat, balancing the A story and the B stories of each episode, what happened in each episode and how it affected the series. And it was fascinating for me to find out a bit more about working for TV and how a writer's room type setting works. Because we did, I don't know if you did this, but we did a writer's room in second year of uni where we wrote a TV series together and we had to write 1 episode each. So I'd had some experience of it through my degree in uni, but doing it practically and to be seen as being on a par with these fantastic writers like Manon Eames, Ciaran and Rhys and Roger, it was just such a good practical experience as well to find out more about the TV industry and that side of it and how to work collaboratively, because the majority of my experience up to this point has been in theatre. So it was great to kind of gain those skills through that project.
So as a playwright, what is your proud achievement as a playwright so far? I mean, is there any projects that you were proud of that you put? It could be just be finished writing it, or it could be producing anything. What was you proud of as a playwright?
Well, I think I'll go back to that time. You probably went through it. We talked about it yesterday. That time after you've graduated and where you kind of go bright-eyed and bushy-tailed into the industry, not knowing really what you're doing. So I wrote a play called Chasing Rainbows. Did you come to my showcase?
Oh, do you know what? You're going back a few years now, mate. I can't remember yesterday some of the times. I think I did. I think I did. But I remember you as soon as you said Chasing Rainbows, I just went, "Oh yeah, that was your final project."
But yeah, and I'd written that for my dissertation piece for uni, and Pontardawe Arts Centre have an annual call out for scripts, and they award the winner of that competition the research and development period. So I entered in this time last year. I sent the script in, and it went through a bit of a process. And I went in for an interview at Pontardawe Arts Centre with Angie Dickinson, who is now the former artistic director, and Louise Osborne and Derek Cobley. Louise Osborne, fantastic dramaturg. And we had a little chat, and I went away and I received an email the following morning saying that they'd decided to commission my play for 2 periods of research and development, one in March 2020 and one in June 2020. So, as you can probably tell, they haven't happened yet, but the project is still under commission by Pontardawe Arts Centre, and we're going to be looking at working on it probably in summer 2021. But it was fantastic to get that commission.
Yeah, no,
Gives you a feeling of kind of validation as a writer, to know that you're doing the right thing, and that other people can see something in what you've written. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's like when I told you yesterday when I wrote The Waiting Room as my very first play. I was very proud to put it on, but I never watched it. You know, with some directors, they watch their own piece and see
Yeah.
how it goes. I didn't. I couldn't watch it because I think because when you're so proud of when you're watching something, not when you watch it, when you directed or written something, you know, you're a bit scared, or a bit anxious. What
Oh yeah.
you could have done more or something like that. And I never watched it. I just stayed in the changing room, just on my phone or writing something else, you know. And
Can, can we pause a minute? Can I go to Luke?
yeah, go for me. Go for it. Close it up.
Oh my God.
Here we go. We're back on. We're back on. What was you saying earlier then? So what was we talking about? Oh, we've lost the topic now. Well done, Rhys.
You were gonna ask me about my podcast.
So yeah, your podcast then. Here we go. So in lockdown with
Yes.
whoever, what was the thought process? What made you want to do this podcast? And also, how did you get these particular guests to come on your show then?
Well, if I take your first question first, it was March. We'd just gone into lockdown, and theatres were shut. And as I just mentioned with the stuff at Pontardawe, I'd had a bit of work postponed and a bit of work cancelled. So what I had was time. And so I'd done a podcast before, which didn't really kind of go anywhere. I'd done a podcast with my mate Rhys, which I really enjoyed, where we spoke about the news every week. And we just had a laugh, a bit of banter about news, like we did earlier on. But I thought, I love listening to interview podcasts. That's what I enjoy listening to when I've got a bit of downtime. And I've got some contacts in the industry. Why not? I've got experience doing a podcast before. Why not see if I can do this? If I've got the time to dedicate to it. So yeah, I started off by putting a post on Facebook and saying, I'm thinking of doing this. Would anyone be interested in coming on as a guest? And Siobhan Lynn Brennan replied, Clary Sadler replied, Sarah Jones Mess, Hugh Rowlands, and Hannah Lloyd were the first 5 who replied. And those are the first 5 episodes that I recorded, and it's been fantastic to really spend an hour and just talk to these people about their careers and about what they've done in the industry and how they're finding lockdown. But in terms of how I get guests on the podcast, it is super, super simple. Like the majority of them are people who I know, people who I've worked with, or maybe been at events with, or maybe they've come in. Do you remember those professional practice sessions that we had? Maybe they've come into uni to deliver one of those sessions. And it's a simple thing of sending an email or sending a message on Facebook saying, this is what it is. Would you be interested in coming on? It's going to take about an hour of your time. And yeah, most people say yes. And the people who don't say yes say, I'd like to, but can we do it in a few months' time? Which has been fantastic, the response I've got from people. And I've recorded, I forgot to tell you this yesterday, but you were episode 50 of the podcast. So you always going to have that special accolade of being episode 50 of the In Lockdown with podcast. And in terms of did you say which guests stand out?
Which guests do stand out for you as I wouldn't say they were better or anything, but what was the best one for you in terms of?
Well, it goes without saying, but apart from your good self, apart from your good, that goes without saying, but apart from your good self, I would say I really love talking to playwrights. No disrespect to actors or directors, they're brilliant. But I'm a playwright and I love talking to playwrights. And speaking to someone like Roger Williams, for example, who's got so much experience in theatre but also in TV, I learned a lot from that as a writer, just in terms of processes and the things that he's done to get to where he is. I also want to mention Dav James, fantastic to have a catch up with him. And I recently, it hasn't been released yet. I don't know when this podcast is going out, but I recently recorded an episode with Kate O'Reilly, who is one of my favorite playwrights. She writes fantastic stylized monologues that you know she's probably known as the best disabled playwright in the world at the moment, and she's based in South Wales. She's Irish, but she's based in South Wales, and she came in to uni to give a talk to us, and I'd seen one of her plays at Chapter the week before, and since then, like, we've kept in touch, and she's done loads to like help me in my career, and she's been great. But that episode won't be going out probably until April time. That's the problem. The only problem is that now I've got a bit of a backlog of episodes. So I've got loads of episodes because I release one every Saturday. But I've got a backlog of episodes. So I'm like kind of 10 or 12 episodes behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I got you. I used to have a backlog of loads of episodes until I had a backlog of 6 episodes for my Dragon's Voice, and I had to release them because I was having a 2-week break from it.
Yeah.
I had to release 2 a week. I say, right, I'm just releasing them so people can just, as a Christmas special treat, just enjoy them, you know. And now I'm back to probably one now after this one because I'm releasing one as we're speaking because it's a Thursday. I'm releasing one tomorrow, every Friday for the Dragon's Voice, and then I'll have another one next
week. I'm a big fan, Rhys.
Thank you very much.
Everyone listen to this man's podcast, but if you want to listen to mine, which you should also do, if there are enough hours in the day to listen to 3 podcasts, you're asking a lot of people there, Rhys, by the way. Yes. But if you search In Lockdown With on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Deezer, you should find it. And there's currently over 35 interviews uploaded with different creatives. And yeah, I think it's still interesting for people who aren't in the industry. But if you have any feedback, if anyone has any feedback, send it my way, because I would love to know what people think.
You know what I'll do? I'll leave a description in below to see what I'll leave a link in the description below and get people to click on it, whether it be on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever. I'll do that.
If you could do that, that would be fantastic.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Do you know, a couple of last questions for you then. We can, and it's been actually, do you know what? It's been the brilliant 2 days. Is actually, brilliant to have a catch up with an old friend, and especially during this lockdown time.
We should do this more often.
Just you correcting me on something. It's like, Rhys, come on. Damn it, Rhys. But one of the things about the podcast, and I've always been interested because when I ask people about podcast shows and everything, they always got like a dream guest or whatever. It doesn't necessarily, it could be anyone local, or it could be, someone, I don't know, like a proper West End playwright or a Hollywood writer, whatever. But if you had a dream, if you had 3 people that you love to have on your show, who would you have?
The King of Port Talbot, Michael Sheen, is number 1.
Oh God. Do you know what?
The King of Port Talbot.
He's my top for this one. And I've messaged him. I'm trying to hunt down.
Number 2 would be number 2. God, this is hard. I should have thought about this. Number 2 would be Joe Murphy, who is the current artistic director of the Sherman Theatre in Cardiff. And I don't think that's too unrealistic. I'll have to email him and find out what his availability is. 3 you wanted, wasn't it, guys? Yeah. And the third would be Jack Thorne, I think, who is the writer of. Have you seen Skins?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, Skins. Yeah.
He's written Skins. He's written Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is currently on in the West End, or not currently on in the West End, but you know what I mean.
Still there.
He's also written loads of plays, and he wrote the adaptation of Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials, which has been on. He's written loads. So yeah, those are the 3 for me.
You know what?
Michael Sheen, Joe Murphy, and Jack Thorne.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you on the Michael Sheen one. He'll just be brilliant doing everything. He's one of my dream guests. Someone said to me, who else would you want on there? And I just thought at the top of my head, I said David Mamet. I said, I love Glengarry Glen Ross. I said, I absolutely love him. I saw Christian Slater in the West End doing it, and I met him afterwards. It was him. Chris Marshall played Williamson, and I don't know if you must have seen the play, but when Al Pacino was in the film Glengarry Glen Ross,
I've read it. I haven't seen it.
But it's that monologue where the character, Ricky Roma, as his name is, and he just calls. I won't repeat this word on the podcast, but he calls him a stupid effing. See you next Tuesday. And it goes into this monologue. And when Christian Slater said that to Chris Marshall, it wasn't me going, it's Ricky Roma saying it to Williamson. It's the guy from True Romance saying it to Death in Paradise, the BT advert guy. It was brilliant. I was like, yes.
But yeah, those are my 3. Well, yeah. Hopefully maybe they'll come on in the next year, because I'm not going to stop. I know it's called In Lockdown With, but even when we're out of this, I'm going to keep going.
Would you change the title because it says In Lockdown? Would you change the title because out of lockdown, or would you just keep it as it is?
You asked me this yesterday, and I think so. But I think I would keep it the same because people know it as that, and if you changed it, you might lose some of your listeners just through not being able to find it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I get what you mean.
But no, I think I would keep the title. It's a bit of nostalgia as well.
Nah, that's fair enough. Well, I know we've gone through so much, so much the time, but I just wanted to say 2 last questions. So have you got any future projects on the go, and what is the future for you, Ciaran?
Okay, I might answer those in one, to be honest. So at the moment, I mentioned the Pontardawe Arts Centre thing, which is pending, so I won't go into that too much. But I'm currently part of the Round When writers group for emerging writers who are developing Welsh language playwrights. So we've been having sessions every fortnight with Gethin Evans, who is the artistic director of Round When. So I'll be writing a piece for that. I need to come up with an idea, but I will be writing something. I am also part of the Ollie Lansley mentoring scheme for emerging underrepresented writers. And for that, I have written 3 drafts of a stage play called Blockbusters, which is set in a video store in Port Talbot, which is closing down. And I'm also writing a TV pilot, which is centered around a disability football team in Bridgend. So that scheme is continuing for the next couple of months, I think. And then hopefully when theatres open back up, I'll have the work of Pontardawe on again, and I'm hoping that I will have some work. I'm in conversation with the other room about the play that I mentioned earlier about long distance relationship. And I'm also in conversation with Theatre and Goch about the same play. I haven't really worked out how to say no to one of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but the future's looking bright for you regardless.
I mean, I don't know if it sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet or like being showy offy, but I'm just really happy with the way things are going right now. And yeah, I just feel ready to kind of jump into the industry when theatres reopen, which we all hope is sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah, I mean, I said exactly the same thing to you in the podcast as well. So it just goes, because I said I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go and do it because, like I said, I've got plays on the go, and I'm not just an ugly face with a podcast to do with football. But anyway, Ciaran, thanks again, for coming on the show and just to talk, just to have a chat really, and just and thanks for giving me not even just an education lesson, but just some good tips, some good facts, and you've said to me, you told me a lot of things that I've learned and been well educated about. So I just want to say again, a big thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Rhys. It's been a lovely experience. I hope that we can talk again very soon.
And I hope we can work together on the play as well.
I will send you something.
I'm worried now. It's gonna be like Rhys. And then I open it up and it says, ha, lol. But anyway, take care, Ciaran.
Cheers, Rhys.
Nice one.